Hi, geometry. So this is objective number 1 of lesson 13, and it is to understand how different quadrilaterals relate to each other. So please make sure you write this objective down. So this is a super awesome diagram that you guys need to copy into your notebooks. But just to make sure that it's super clear, feel free to take one of your pages and turn it sideways. So that way all the information is not squished together, okay? And the way we read this is we start with the quadrilateral, right? A quadrilateral, remember, quad means four. It's a four-sided shape. So there's three different types of quadrilaterals that we have. We have the kite, we have the trapezoid, and we have the parallelogram, okay? So if it has no pair of parallel sides, it's going to be considered a kite. If it has one pair of parallel sides, it's going to be considered a trapezoid or an isosceles trapezoid. And if it has two pairs of parallel sides, it'll be a parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, or square, right? But one thing to know is that if it's at the bottom, that means it's a version of the shape above it, right? So if I have an isosceles triangle, that can also be classified as a trapezoid. And if it is a trapezoid, it can also be classified as a quadrilateral. Same applies for the square, right? The square is the product of a rectangle and rhombus, right? So square can be considered a rectangle and a rhombus, and both a rectangle and a rhombus can be considered a parallelogram, and a parallelogram can be considered a quadrilateral, okay? Please feel free to pause the video and replay that whole explanation, but it's super important that you understand how one relates to the other, okay? Now we're just going to go through a couple of slides and review. You may want to get your notes from lesson number 12, the definitions that you wrote down. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with. Before revealing or allowing the video to continue, refer to your definitions and try to say it out loud on your own before showing the answer. So it is a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides, okay? A rectangle is a quadrilateral with four right angles, okay? So that's how one relates to the other, as stated in here, right? So the reason why this rectangle is considered a parallelogram, right? It's because it's two pairs of parallel sides, but the difference is that this has four right angles, okay? And it keeps on going. Rectangles have two pairs of parallel sides, so they are also parallelograms, just as I explained. Is a square a rectangle? That's always going to be the grand question in geometry, and the answer is yes, right? What is a rectangle? So the reason why it's yes, well, we refer to the definition of a rectangle. A rectangle is a quadrilateral with four right angles. Does a square have that? Yes, it does. So therefore, it is considered a rectangle. So does a square have four right angles? Yes. So therefore, it is considered a rectangle. Very important that you're always referring to the definitions, okay? A rhombus is a quadrilateral with, again, do it on your own first, four congruent sides. Rhombuses have two pair of parallel sides, so they're also considered parallelograms. Again, going all the way back to that diagram, this is what I'm talking about. So because it has two pairs of parallel sides, it is also considered a parallelogram, which means it is also a quadrilateral, okay? Going all the way back really fast, sorry about that, okay? So is a square a rhombus? Well, what is a square? Or what is a rhombus, right? A rhombus has four congruent sides. Does a square have four congruent sides? Yes, so then for it is a rhombus, okay? So just take a second to jot this down and fill in the blanks. So all blanks are rectangles. All blanks are also rhombuses. Squares, rectangles, and rhombuses are all. So again, you're using the flow of the chart to answer your questions, okay? Now, a couple more things to review. This is now has two pairs of parallel sides. I wouldn't say parallel, sorry about that. Two pairs, it has a set of congruent sides, right? So we know that if we have two sides that are the same, that means isosceles. So this is an isosceles trapezoid, okay? And it is a trapezoid because it's a pair of parallel sides, okay? And these are, well, I have congruent sides that are adjacent to one another. Remember, adjacent means next to. This is one example. So these two are congruent and these two are congruent and they're next to each other. Same here. So these are kites, okay? Here's an example of a real life kite. All right, so that brings us to objective number 2. Again, make sure you're reviewing your notes, the definitions, and you can use this video to help you with your IXL. All right, guys, if you have questions, please come to office hours.